issues, education, religion, government, or national security. Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howe.
And good evening and welcome on this Friday night, June 13th, 2025, here at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern Standard. Tonight, my guest first up will be Gordon Chang. I recorded an interview with Gordon this afternoon. I want to bring you this interview with Gordon Chang about China, about Israel and Iran, about his concerns related to the threats here in our country. Do we both believe that President Trump should be addressing the nation and warning about these existential threats in our country? Or should the president do as he's done, basically stay out of the limelight on this issue? We'll play that interview for you in just one moment. Then after that, we're going to be joined by another great panel tonight. Colonel Rob Maness will join us, Leo Holman, Annie Cyrus, David Pine, and we are endeavoring to get on with us Rob Lindstedt, who is in Israel, hoping to get a flight out of there, headed back to Wichita on Monday, but he's trapped in Israel. And then, of course, our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. We'll try to get him awake and joining us tonight. So it's going to be an exhaustive panel tonight of experts and lots of video. As if you joined us on radio at 1 o'clock Central Day, which is also TV as well, you know that Israel was hammered by Iran, and somewhere between, depending on the reports, 200 plus ballistic missiles, some of them getting through, hitting buildings in Tel Aviv, and of course coming in at multiple places throughout the country of Israel. My red app on my phone that goes off every time a rocket is shot was going off like crazy. And then it subsided for a while, then started back up off and on all day. So here we are now in the evening, America time, headed about, 3:30 a.m., I think, over there right now, Israel time in the morning. So again, rough day for Israel with some of the missiles getting through, the Iron Dome not taking them all down. We'll explain why tonight, why some of those missiles are getting through this time. I think the last time it was only one got through. Remember that back in the spring? Only one. Why are missiles getting through this time? We'll explain. So tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, whatever you've got. Let your family and friends know I'm about to roll with a very important interview with Gordon Chang, who's also very concerned about, terror threats inside our own homeland. Then our very distinguished panel. So join us tonight and get your family and friends to tune in as well. Tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, whatever it is you do. Tell them to join us here at worldviewtube.com or any of our platforms, distributing on many, many platforms tonight, our main one being worldviewtube.com. All right, so with that, let's move along very quickly tonight. Again, if you appreciate what we're doing, we need your support. Not going to take a lot of time to promote stuff tonight, folks. We have a lot to get to, but we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. We are a listener-supported broadcast. And, of course, we have a church service on Sunday nights, brought to you by our foundation. I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and I'm on Revelation chapter 17 right now. You'll find that at worldviewtube.com. If you missed our Sunday night church service this past Sunday night, this Sunday night is Father's Day, obviously. So I'm going to take off and spend time with my family. Hope you will as well. Look forward to our church service the following Sunday night. We'll run a best of for this week. But if you appreciate all our foundation does in the area of public service, education, and ministry, we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Don't also forget about worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Lots of great products there. Lots of products I take for my health. Great ways, I think, to support us and your health at the same time. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right. So again, alert your family and friends while we play an interview that I pre-recorded this afternoon with Gordon Chang, and then we'll be back with our live panel. Watch this. Joining me now is Gordon Chang. Mr. Chang, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you so much, Brandon. I really appreciate it.
Great to have you with us as always. All right, so here we go. Israel has hit Iran. Iran has fired back. somewhere around 300 ballistic missiles. Some of them got through today, hitting Tel Aviv and other parts of Israel. We had about an hour and a half live broadcast today on our 74 stations, as well as TV, showing that today. So the question is, now that the U.S. is involved, the U.S. is helping shoot down some of these missiles. What is China and what is Russia or North Korea prepared to do? What are they saying? And is this the beginning of a World War III scenario? Is it going to, I mean, I think it's kind of been going on in some level, some degree, but is it about to really kick off now? Will this be the place where people look back and say, yeah, World War III began on June 12th, 2025?
That's possible. They also might say that the war began on October 7th, 2023.
Wow.
Could be February 24, 2022, or they might even go as far back as August 2021 with the catastrophic withdrawal from the United States from Afghanistan. You know, what we can say is this, that withdrawal from Afghanistan really shook up the world. And I think that what it showed was the incapability of the Biden administration. And therefore, Vladimir Putin thought that he could invade Ukraine. And then we see basically a continued erosion and a breaking apart of the world. You know, it's not just Ukraine, it's not just Israel and Iran. It's also North Africa, where we are seeing insurgencies fueled by China and Russia. And those insurgencies look like wars. And God knows what's going to happen in East Asia. So, yes, people might, say that the 12th was the start of World War III, but it's really been a continuum.
So what does China do, if anything?
Well, China has issued some words about what they don't want to see Iran's territorial sovereignty violated, and basically condemning Israel. But there's very little that China can actually do right now. And the point is that China looks, its diplomacy looks to be in retreat in the Middle East. If we go back a year, China looked ascendant. They had the Beijing Declaration of July of last year, where they got the 14 Palestinian groups to sign a unity document. And before that, China brokered a deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And so China looked like it was driving events. But for various reasons, it looks to be in retreat. The Palestinian Declaration, that fell apart. Obviously, Saudi Arabia and Iran are no longer on the same page, and China just basically doesn't know what to do. So I think that this is a confirmation that Beijing is not power in the Middle East like everyone thought it was.
How does this impact the BRICS banking system, or does it?
Well, I don't think that it does. I mean, China obviously wants to replace the dollar as the world's reserve currency. The BRICS are not really a vehicle to do that. The reason is that BRICS have an eye. That eye is India, and India does not want the grouping to be used as an anti-Western organization. So as long as India is in BRICS, it's going to be an ineffectual group. If India leaves, then I'd worry a little bit more about the BRICS. But remember, we're dealing with a lot of weak states. So you've got Russia, which is hands full in Ukraine, South Africa. You know, South Africa is having problems all across the board. And China is an economy which is in distress and a regime which seems to be preoccupied by infighting. So I'm not really that concerned about the BRICS.
All right, let's turn to Taiwan. What is your latest on Taiwan? And particularly if America finds itself getting more involved in a war in the Middle East, does that do anything to your timetable of China maybe doing a blockade around Taiwan?
I think that what's going on in China right now is, especially in the regime, is the dominant factor. And that is, we see that Xi Jinping has lost great influence over and maybe even control of the Chinese military. His number one guy in the military, a guy named General He Weidong, has not been seen in public since March 11th. This was Xi Jinping's hatchet man. And, people say, well, Xi Jinping got rid of his own guy, but that's pretty unlikely. And the reason is, since July 9th of last year, PLA Daily, which is the propaganda organ of the Chinese military, has been running articles praising, quote unquote, collective leadership. That's a direct attack on Xi Jinping's one-man style of rule and demand for complete obedience. So these articles could not have been run if Xi Jinping were controlling the Chinese military. At the same time, we are seeing signs that Xi Jinping has lost influence among civilian leaders. So, for instance, in China's propaganda organs, he's not shown directing the Politburo. He's just basically there with ceremonial functions, like meeting Lukashenko or, opening up, some sort of center. But it's really been minor stuff. And that's a hint, not direct evidence, but that's a hint that Xi Jinping has also lost influence in civilian realm. The reason why I go through all of this is because he probably doesn't have the authority to actually launch an invasion of the main island of Taiwan, or a blockade for that matter. That would require him to give almost complete control of the Chinese military to some flag officer, because going after Taiwan's main island requires an air, land, sea operation. Something, by the way, that China, in its thousands of years of history, has never done. Even in the calmest of times, Xi Jinping would be loath to give a general or admiral such power, making that figure the most powerful person in China. And especially right now, even if he had the authority to order that, he's not about to give somebody such complete control over the military. So at least that's safe. That's not to say that there won't be a war in East Asia, because right now China is engaged in some very belligerent military activity that could spiral into war. But I think the main island of Taiwan is safe for at least a little while.
Wow. So China's not quite the threat maybe that it was a year ago. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, it poses a different threat, Brandon, and that is that Xi Jinping has configured the Chinese political system so that only the most hostile answers are considered acceptable. So if one of these provocations against South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, and faraway Australia, if one of them spirals into conflict, then I don't think that Xi Jinping can manage the situation. So I think that that's how war starts in East Asia, not by Xi Jinping waking up some morning and saying, we're attacking South Korea. It's basically because things get out of control. And I think the probability of things getting out of control is actually fairly high. So I worry about war, but I don't worry about war starting the way most people do. I just see it in a very different fashion, uncoordinated, unplanned, but nonetheless just as dangerous.
Let's talk about California and the protesters. We've got Trevor Loudon, who's been on here, talking about the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, Maoist-aligned type groups with their worldview. How much CCP money or Maoist organizations are funding these protests in California? And what are your concerns, if any, about these protests planned all across the country tomorrow, Saturday, June 14th?
I worry. Well, first of all, there's a lot of Chinese money going into the protest. You have Neville Roy Singman, his wife also. He's a billionaire, so he can pour a lot of money into it, and in fact, he has. But we got to put this in context, because we saw China fuel and foment protests in the United States in 2020. And then, there were, for instance, the night that St. John's Church was burned, the church one block away from the White House. That evening, there were Chinese protesters organized in obviously military fashion, acting in coordinated maneuvers. And people in the U.S. government believe that that was actually Chinese agents on the streets committing acts of violence. But we also know that China used its propaganda organs to fuel the unrest in 2020, just as they're right today fueling the unrest in Los Angeles. So yes, this is an act of war against the United States. And we need the president of the United States to actually say this to the American people. Because, we have Xi Jinping. He talks about going to war all the time. And he's obviously getting both his military and civilians ready for war. He's been doing that now for 3 years in really fast fashion. So we are at risk because we have, we haven't had a president willing to talk to the American people about what's going on.
Now, you don't know this, but I've been ranting and raving about that for 48 hours. I've been one of the few talk show hosts saying that President Trump, while I appreciate a lot of what he's doing, is not leading strongly in this area, that he needs to hold an Oval Office address, tell the American people what's going on, and warn them about the enemies inside our country and tell them to prepare.
Absolutely. Because we need the president to have that address to tell the American people. And we need the U.S. military to get a sense of urgency. They have this general notion that we got to prepare for war with China, but they don't do it with the sense of timing that is absolutely necessary. Because we could be at war at any time. Because, as I mentioned, China could lash out. Some belligerent act can go and spiral into conflict. We just need to be ready. And obviously we're not.
No, we're obviously not. Not when you have all these Chinese students here. And President Trump just put out a tweet that in part of his negotiations with Xi Jinping, he's going to let a bunch of them stay here. I'm thinking, aren't some of these spies? Aren't some of them grabbing up intellectual property? I mean, isn't this caving to the CCP to have, I'm not saying all the students from China, but isn't this been one of their ways to get into our country?
Oh, absolutely. And, we've known from surveys that a substantial portion of Chinese students do commit espionage. I mean, some people say it's as high as 13%. But we know that the Chinese networks are here, networks of operatives. They've been intruding into our military bases. They've been trying to gain access with false statements. There's been illicit surveillance of our bases. And of course, they've been surveilling our infrastructure. So they've been studying our patterns, looking for our vulnerabilities, and they are ready to strike. And I believe that the highest priority of the federal government right now should be breaking up those Chinese networks.
100%.
Because when those guys strike, they're going to take down our country. We're going to have to be at a point where Americans are going to have to rely on themselves. No electricity, no running water, no modern convenience, no car, no nothing. So this is going to be a very, very difficult situation if the Chinese strike.
Recently, the general in charge of Edwards Air Force Base, May 7th, gave a speech, about a 25-minute speech. I don't know if you've had the chance to see that. We played the whole thing here last Friday, I think it was. The general in charge, the commander, who's a brigadier general in charge of Edwards Air Force Base in California, gave 25-minute speech on the threats facing that base and the community around it. And he called in the community leaders and said, I believe if China were to go against Taiwan, one of the first things they would do is take down the power grid in America. I'm like, that's what Gordon Chang has been saying. And he brought in community leaders and gave the speech. And he talked to them about cyber attacks and all the different things going on, and that your cell phones will be down. And there's all these things he was saying. I'm like, this is what Gordon Chang's been warning about. Now, if we got a general in charge of Edwards Air Force Base bringing in and briefing the media and briefing local community leaders, isn't this the kind of speech, again, we should be hearing from the Oval Office to warn Americans? Because look at this map. All this Chinese-owned farmland in America. And I heard Dan Bongino, we played the video, we heard Dan Bongino say, I'm in my office a lot. It's kind of a tough job. My office is next to Kash Patel's. I'm staring at these four walls. He was kind of talking about how tough the job is. And I thought to myself, well, if you don't want to stare at the four walls anymore, then maybe you should get in the field and find out what's going on all this Chinese-owned farmland in America. And then you won't have to look at the four walls.
Yeah, I'll give you two examples. In September, a Chinese national tried to get into a U.S. nuclear weapons facility. Person was denied. Then he tried again the next day, and again he was denied. And then they didn't detain him. I think that someone like that should be sent to Guantanamo. The other thing is that at Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix, which has the greatest concentration of F-35s, I believe, in the Air Force, because it's a training base. A Chinese man tried to rent warehouse space in a warehouse which was right up against the runway, one end of the runway. And he was denied, which was good. And then 6 months later, the same guy tries to get warehouse space at the other end of the runway. So we know what's going on here. So it's not just farmland. It's, the bigger question is, why do we allow civilian warehouses right up against runways of important Air Force bases?
Absolutely. Hold right there. We come back. We'll ask Gordon Chang about the CCP agents sneaking in biological weapons. Don't go away.
Looking for a trusted source to understand today's world through a Christian worldview? Worldview Tube is built on the 35 years of worldview books, columns, research, and high-profile interviews of Brannon House. Want to know more about Worldview Tube, its founder, history, team, and mission? Visit worldviewtube.com/about. That's worldviewtube.com/about. Worldview Tube is your source for understanding the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity. All from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
Hello, I'm Brannon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHousebg.com. We're back with Mr. Gordon Chang. You can follow him on X at Gordon G. Chang. We get the G in there, so you're following the right Mr. Chang, at Gordon G. Chang. Right before the break, you were talking about runways. People were trying to, CCP tied, people trying to get buildings at the end of runways. What do you think they were thinking about doing? Using maybe some man pads to take down an airplane? What do you think?
Could be that, Brennan. But, on June 1, we saw what the Ukrainians did to Russian bombers that were lined up on the tarmac. So all they'd have to do is, pop open the window and send out drones. So that's one thing that can be done. But there are all sorts of things that you can think of if you're sitting right next to the runway. So, yeah, whatever it is, it can't be good.
No, it can't be good. Now, what do you make? Two incidences in like a week of CCP-tied individuals trying to bring biological weapons into the U.S.?
Yeah, well, this is part of a bigger story, I think. In 2020, Americans in all 50 states received seeds from China unsolicited.
Wait, what?
This year,
what? You said what?
Seeds.
Americans just received seeds in the mail unsolicited
from China. This year, Temu, which is the online Chinese retailer, has been sending seeds to Americans unsolicited. So I think that's an attempt to plant invasive species. What we saw in the Eastern District of Michigan, the 3 people who have been charged with trying to smuggle in biological agents. I think this is another attack on America's farms and ranches. We're going to learn a lot more as facts come out, but this can't be good. I mean, This was a weapon of mass destruction. And however this story plays out, we're going to learn a lot of very disturbing things about what China is doing. And by the way, why are we talking to China about trade when they are attacking our farms and our ranches? This just seems to me to be wrong.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And do we still have no answers on the drones that were flying up and down the river off of Washington, D.C. for 17 nights in a row? Colonel Rob Maness was on it again today with me saying there was a four-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star general standing up there watching it go by. And this went on for 17 nights, coordinated drones. And they're like, huh. And he said they did nothing about it. We still don't know anything about that. We were promised that we would find that out, I guess, when President Trump's administration came in. Doesn't seem like that's happened. And then you add Ukraine moving a truck into Russia and launching drones attacking his bombers, Putin's bombers. And then you look what Russia did. They moved a truck into Iran, let drones go, and attacked Iran. This seems to be the new way of warfare. And yet, we've got drones that have been flying all over the country in formation, and 4, 3, 2, and 1-star generals stand up there watching it going, that's interesting. I wonder what that's all about after 17 nights. And we still don't know. So is this the new way of warfare? And what percentage of these cargo containers are we screening that come in from China? Like 1%? At what point are these things loaded with drones, or do we have a Club K cargo systems that the lid lifts up and out pops cruise missiles that I put in my documentary in 2018 on that, my documentary Sabotage. Are these things more probable now than ever?
Oh, well, certainly, because the Ukrainians shown the rest of the world that this is how the new way of warfare, and Russia was completely unprepared. And so are we. I mean, at Langley Air Force Base, there were those 3 or 4 nights where they were drone overflights, and the base commander couldn't do anything about it, just did not have the capability. And also, when we had all those drones over the state that I live in, which is New Jersey, we got the explanation from the Biden administration, which was then repeated by the Trump administration, saying, these are just all domestic drones. Well, I can understand a lot of them were domestic drones, but we also know something, and that is people in New Jersey watch drones enter American airspace from the Atlantic, and that could not have been domestic drones. There's some foreign power out there. We can argue, is it Russia? Is it China? Is it Iran? I don't know. But the story is, again, no good. And what's really concerning about this is not that it is concerning that a foreign power is assaulting our country with drones, but it's that our own government won't tell us the truth. And so here, I got a real problem. I suppose they don't want us to be panicked, but we could use a little bit of concern right now out of our own government. Forget about the Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians. I want our government to start defending me because that's their job.
You and I are saying the same thing. We didn't rehearse it because, like I said, I've been asking for the last 2 days for President Trump to address the country from the Oval Office and ask Americans to be hyper vigilant, see something, say something, report it. Do not engage people in these protests coming up on Saturday. Don't get up in their faces. Don't provoke them. Don't fall for a trap. I don't know, again, if any of those protests will be taken advantage of. I pray they won't. No one's harmed. But I also know that I think a lot of Americans are not even aware of what we're talking about. I mean, if you follow news programs like this, you follow other networks that talk like this, that interview you, then maybe you are. But there's a lot of Americans that they've tuned in and turned out. You know, they don't do this anymore for whatever reason. And I think the president needs to bring them back to a hypervigilance. I know that after 9/11, we had all these colors for warning. I think we need to go back to saying something very simple. The colors don't make a lot of sense, too confusing. But, you know, maybe it's a 5 and we're on a scale of 3 now or whatever. But the president needs to, I think, right now, elevate our standing for security, at least until these rallies pass on Saturday, but maybe for the next couple of weeks while this is going down in Israel, in the Middle East. You know, we played a video, Mr. Chang, of a guy, former Black Panther guy, who went to jail and I guess converted to Islam while he was in there, saying, hey, you know, with these mosques, just the Friday prayers, we have one of the biggest standing armies around. And then he said, hey, I belong to this group. I run this group. It's all on video. He said, I run this group, and about half of them are Muslim. The other half are communist. They're revolutionaries. You know, they're anarchists. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, at least he's telling us, but we need our president and other leaders telling us, particularly if a general's bringing in the leaders of the community around Edwards Air Force Base and warning them. And he said this is a threat to all kinds of other bases, not just his. So again, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but don't you think when it hits the fan, we need Americans that are ready, not who are sitting there saying, I don't have food, I don't have water. Can you imagine the strain and stress on our local, state, and federal government then? That again creates more chaos that our enemies can take advantage of. But if more Americans are aware and are prepared, not only can we prevent something, but we can keep it from becoming a natural disaster that didn't need to happen with at least a percentage of the population, because they're fine and they're hunkering down and waiting for this to pass. What say you?
Yeah, today I just incidentally I posted on Twitter. I said to President Trump and to Border Czar Holman, I mean, their number one priority is breaking up these foreign networks of agents in our country because we know that they're here. I mean, just to give you an example, on Iran, President Biden had his deal with Iran on 9/11 of 2023. And what he did was he gave clemency to 5 Iranian operatives. Well, okay, but what was really unacceptable was that he allowed 3 of those operatives to stay in the U.S. at the same time that we know that Iran was trying to assassinate former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, former senior State Department official Brian Hook, and as we learned later, they were going after President Trump. So why would you allow Iranian operatives to stay in our country on those circumstances? And then we've got all of these Chinese who are really suspicious because they've been, as I mentioned, they've been pressuring us and they've been planning attacks. We need to break up those networks right away.
100%. The same reason, I'll say this in closing, the same reason we're saying, hey, look, Israel, if you feel threatened by Iran, then you can do what you need to do. But isn't it interesting, as I've been saying today, Israel is worried about the threats from Iran, particularly when you have Iran saying we're going to wipe Israel off the face of the earth and everything. Okay, these are existential threats to them. But what about the existential threats to our country that are not a country or two away or 1,000 miles away? They're right here, right now, with the red-green axis, the red being the Islamists, the green being the Marxists, who they're bragging that they're working together. I mean, Carlos the Jackal said you can only bring down America with a red-green alliance. And yet, there's just not a lot of people talking about the threats that we've been talking about tonight. Closing comment?
Yeah. If there's going to be a next war for the United States, it's going to be fought on American soil. This will be the first time since the War of 1812 that Americans will fight a foreign enemy in a sustained battle on their own soil. So it is going to come here, and we Americans need to be prepared. We have to assume that there's no electricity, there's no running water, that your car doesn't work, that you have to take care of yourself for perhaps as much as 6 months.
I agree. Look at, folks, you need to follow him right here at Gordon G. Chang, at Gordon G. Chang on X. You can also go to his website, gordonchang.com. And then if you go to Amazon, just type in Gordon G. Chang into Amazon. He has a ton of books, including a brand new one that I've interviewed him about, related to the Red Plan of China. Folks, get up to speed on these things. These also make great gifts for people that love to read and be informed. They don't come much better than Gordon Chang when it comes to so many of these topics. At Gordon G. Chang on X, or again, just put his name in to Amazon and order some of his books. Greetings to your wife, and thank you, as always, for being with us. And we're looking forward to having you as a keynote speaker at our 22nd Annual National Conference, October 3rd and 4th, just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. Looking forward to having you both with us in person.
We're looking forward to that too, Brandon. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you for accepting it. Have a great night. Mr. Gordon Chang checking in at Gordon G. Chang right there, folks. We appreciate him so very much. And we'll be right back after this break.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, you know, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com. And we are back. Thank you for being with us tonight at 8:07 p.m. Central, 9:07 Eastern Standard. We're going to bring in an amazing panel right now. Colonel Rob Maness is going to join us, Leo Holman, Annie Cyrus, David Pine, Aaron, our reporter on the ground in Israel, and Dr. Rob Lindstedt, who's also in Israel. Now, I want to go first to Dr. Rob Lindstedt in Israel, and then we're going to let him go, because apparently he is outside with special permission. I don't know what all that means. We'll ask him. But let's go to him right now so that we can let him get back inside. He took a tour group to Israel and war broke out. And now they're kind of stuck and they're trying to get back to the United States. Dr. Lindstedt, welcome. Thank you for joining us again tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be with you.
What time is it in Israel right now?
Let's see. I think it's a little after 4 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. So now, why do you need special permission to be outside?
Well, we're still on alert here, and so they've asked us to stay in the bomb shelter. The trouble is the signal down there is very bad, and some of the people that are with me, we have our own little room that we're using, and some of them are trying to sleep because we do. I think we've been down there 5 times, up and down 5 times. They've asked us to remain there. And it was just so hard to get reception, and I didn't want to wake up the people that finally have gone to sleep. So I got permission to come outside and visit with you out here.
Well, thank you for doing that. Now, what is this bunker like? I'm guessing there's not cots down there, or are there?
No, there's not. I wish there were, because first it's exciting when you go down to the bomb shelter. You think you're having a war experience. But when you do it, I think we did 3 times in the 1 hour I was on with you earlier. We've had 2 more, and they've asked us not even to go back up to our room. There's no doubt that Iran has hit some places, not in Jerusalem, but we've seen missiles go over the hotel twice. We've also seen the Iron Dome in action. I mean, it's incredible to watch. But Tel Aviv, I think, has been hit, both in the neighborhood and, of course, in what we call the Pentagon of Israel has been hit. And so, really, I think people are saying, "Okay, this is more serious." I think people thought that they could take Iran out with a single stroke, and maybe Iran has more friends in the neighborhood than we thought. And I think Israel really was acting on their own, and I'm proud of them for acting on their own. When you see a country this small, they can't wait for for them to get approval from every other nation. They can't wait for the United Nations to say, yeah, you can, because they never do that. And so they just decided that this was the right moment. They had a plan in effect, and it's never pleasant to say go to war, but there comes a time when you got to do it. And they felt like it was time. There's no doubt that Iran has violated the atomic guidelines set down. And if someone doesn't hold them accountable, then they're going to continue to violate every policy. Their word's no good. Their promises are no good. Signed papers no good. And unfortunately, that's how things work in the Middle East. The negotiations here are very different than they are in a, let's say, back home, or in a civilized country where your word, your integrity means something. Here, there's honor in lying. There's honor in even being deceitful.
Yeah. You're getting home. When do you think you're going to make it back to the United States?
Well, that's a good question. I've got hopes that maybe if they open up an airspace in Jordan, we'll be able to take a bus from here and get to the airport in Jordan. Right now, Jordan is considered neutral. They closed down their airspace for a while today because missiles were coming right over Jordan into Israel. And but I'd like to be optimistic and say perhaps Sunday or Monday, maybe we'll be given the opportunity to go to the airport, get on planes, and get home.
My wife asked me today, and I'll ask Aaron later, but she said, do Dr. Rob or Aaron, do they feel like they could be killed during all this? What do you say?
Yes, but I think my chances are better here than in Chicago. and maybe, a matter of fact, I just visited back home and I said, wow, I'd hate to be in Los Angeles. I think it's more current present danger with individuals. But here, the danger is not so much with individuals as with a crazy attack. When you see the damage these missiles do, it's unbelievable. Matter of fact, just as I'm sitting here, I'm watching Jews walk by my hotel, dressed in their garb to go down to pray at the Western Wall. And even though there was a ban on being out or in large gatherings, I think I meant to send you a clip. I forgot, but once we got out of the bomb shelter, they continued the wedding here at the hotel, and so people are still doing some activity, but it's quiet compared to what I normally see in Israel.
Yeah. Let me ask you before I let you go, so you can go maybe grab a little bit of sleep. Talk to us about Bible prophecy. How is all this? If I know it's a theory because everything's always fluid. But how do you think this fits in with Bible prophecy? And do you think this is going to begin something broader than the Middle East? A lot of people online saying, hey, this could run into World War III. This could be where they point back to where it really started kinetically. Do you see a world leader eventually walking onto the stage, the man of peace, to offer peace, which we know is a false peace because the next horse we see riding is a war? But is this possibly the kind of scenario where a man of peace walks onto the stage and calms the world down?
Mm-hmm. I think there's two things that I kind of see that are pointing a direction toward Bible prophecy. One is Russia is the leader. It says Russia and its hordes, and it mentions Iran, it mentions Turkey, and so on like that. But I think Russia is the leader. I really believe that while Iran is horrible, they're wicked, the people of Iran hope that their regime is toppled. But the truth is, I see the presence of Russia and China here just as much as I see any other presence. I think Russia's going to lead the attack against Israel. How God's going to bring that about, I'm not sure. But we know that the players are lined up. I think the second thing is look at the search for peace. Everyone wants peace. Everyone wants a ceasefire. Everyone's shocked. How can it be that we don't have the hostages back? That's at a stalemate. All the promises made by everybody, it's at a stalemate. And so I think right now we're looking for a leader in the world. I saw where even Macron, he said, well, okay, maybe Israel had the right to do that, but they better not go too far. And I think that's the thinking of so many people. Okay, Israel, maybe this one's okay, but don't go too far. When you're this small, Netanyahu talked about the fact, the size of the state of New Jersey, that's the whole country. Literally, there's places where it's just a few miles wide. And so I think I think this sets it up for an antichrist. Right now, there's no person in the world who is strong enough to bring about peace. I'm waving to a friend of mine who's coming to work. And so I really think the world's looking for this peacemaker and this person who's got the solution to everything. And there's no one that does, but he'll lie and people will believe him. And I can see the world wanting it so bad. The people here are tired of hiding in bunkers. We're tired after 3 or 4 days of doing this. Can you imagine when they've lived a year and a half doing this? And like one lady said in the hotel, she said, everything we do, we have to do saying, well, we're in war. Well, we're in war. Whether it's planning a wedding, whether it's planning a birthday, whether it's a family get together, it's all as a result of this, we're in war. And so I think Israel is ready to find someone who can bring peace. The world is hoping to find peace. And Satan knows that we're perfectly set up for that. And right now, I think he's grooming his man to be able to deliver a message of a peace that, like you say, is a false peace. So to me, the two big things is to see the presence of Russia and China involved, even in this conflict, and then to see people wanting war. Can you imagine? Right now it's isolated to Israel. If this was going on in our country, let me tell you, it would be a total disaster. How would we ever find protection for our population? Here luckily we have a hotel, we have food, we have beds, and but in America, can you imagine? And it's going to spread. Unfortunately, I think it's going to spread. I'm not trying to predict that. I'm not trying to encourage that. I'm just saying I'm watching a human race that really is out of control because they're expecting so much from life, and when they don't get their way, they're very destructive.
So you, in closing, you are saying that in America, for instance, we don't have bunkers like they do all over Israel.
That's correct. Where would you hide? Here, one of the things they look for is how do you put people in a bunker? The number of people you can put in a hotel is determined by that. Schools have bunkers. Even at our universities, how do you put 50,000 people in a bunker? And what if they have to be in there for hours? Bathrooms, believe me, bathrooms become a problem when you're in a bunker. All of a sudden, you realize after the second hour, third hour you're there, you're going to have to leave and go to the bathroom. And where do you go? And the minute you do, you're really exposed.
But we're going to pray. Yeah.
I think it's made me appreciate the freedom that we have in America, but it's also made me realize that the freedom that we have is fragile. And I look at people demonstrating for every cause, and really we're selfish. To be honest, we're selfish. I think it's important for us to understand we need our country to be solidified. We need our country to be strong. And right now, I don't know that I see a country in the world that's strong enough to withstand the tide.
Wow.
Israel, I think, is going to be, by the time they're done, I think everyone's going to hate Israel.
By the time they're done, they're all going to hate Israel. Let me ask you this in closing, Dr. Rob. You've been to Israel approaching what, 75 times?
Well, we'll just say about 70. Yeah.
You always do that, and you've been to Israel about 3 times since you started saying that. But so I anyway, you've been there a lot. You've never been there in that 70 times. You've never been there under these conditions, have you?
No, I happened to be here when they captured Saddam Hussein. And we decided to leave the country, and they allowed us to go into Switzerland for 6 wonderful days. The next year, all my students said, "Can we go to Israel for 6 or 7 days and then be special guests in Switzerland?" I said, that's not always an option. I was here when they went after Gaddafi. So this is really the 3rd time I've been here when a major world event has taken place. But nothing like this where we actually had to hide and actually had to go to the bomb bunkers.
Wow. Okay. Be safe, my friend. All right.
Thank you.
Bible,
okay.
no,
Appreciate
thank
your
you.
prayers.
Hey, tell everybody in the bunker we're praying for them, will you?
I sure will.
BibleTipNow.org, BibleTipNow.org, BibleTipNow.org. Dr. Rob Linstead live from Israel. We come back, we'll be joined by our panel, live from Israel, our reporter Aaron Lavarco, Colonel Rob Maness, Annie Cyrus, David Pine, Leo Holman. What a panel, again, we have assembled for you tonight. I guarantee you, we're going to cover topics that are not being covered elsewhere. This is a distinguished panel, all of them with specific expertise and bios that make them highly qualified to be here tonight on this broadcast. And we're thankful for each and every one of them. So please let your friends know we're here. Tune in, and we'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
Back. And welcome back. Glad you were with us tonight. Let's get our panel up here right away. Annie, Leo, Colonel Maness, David Pine, Aaron Lavarco, all of you, welcome. Thank you for being with us this evening. Let's start with you, Aaron. What is the latest? Now, there are a lot of rumors swirling, so I need facts. I know you've been working on that. The equivalent of your Pentagon, rumors are it was struck. Other sources are saying, no, it was hit near there, but the building itself was not hit. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, correct. No, it wasn't hit directly. There was movement in the area, of course. Tel Aviv is not a huge city, but no, it wasn't damaged. But some of the statistics that I've been getting, kind of encouraging. 97% of the ballistic missiles that were fired were intercepted. That's good news. And sadly, we have had one 80-year-old who was critically injured. She has now been declared dead. That's very sad news. 63 injured down in the very south, the southern city of Eilat. is coming under heavy fire from the Houthis. But our forces, our jets, our air force, and the Mossad are working covertly inside of Tehran, and it really makes me think. And I don't know what Annie's been hearing, but I just wonder: is there anyone within Iran that maybe is working alongside the Mossad? I've been mentioning that this operation has been planned for years and years and years. The training of the pilots, the paths, the coordinations, and the timing of the coordination is so crucial. So I just wonder: is there anyone standing in the shadows waiting to step up? I highly question it because of the danger of that happening in Iran, but we know that the Mossad are operating. Here, it's quiet right now. Twice during the night, I was woken up with sirens. It's not a very nice sound when you're in a deep sleep. It's quite that sound goes right through you, and it's not so much scary. It's kind of shocking, and it's almost like a Russian roulette thing. You were asking Dr. Rob, does he feel afraid? It's very different than that. We live in Israel constantly under the fear or under the threat of terrorism. In some ways, that is more concerning and puts us on edge, actually, more than what we're going through now. Because terrorism, we live with, or 2 million Arabs live among us, and they may get up. Any one of them may get up one day and decide, you know what, I've had enough. I had a cousin 5-10 years ago who was arrested or badly treated. I want to bring revenge. I want to help the cause of Islam, but definitely it's stressful, and I'm looking forward to getting back to sleep sometime.
I bet you are. Let's go to Colonel Rob, then we'll go to Annie and David. Colonel, what is the latest you're hearing, and what is the latest you're thinking, having watched this as a military guy?
Well, it's devolved down into the typical responses from the Iranians. Their targeting capability has obviously been degraded as the Israelis have established dominance completely in every domain, air and communications, command and control, all of that. And they're just throwing missiles as close to targets as they can get, and they don't care if they hit cities, population centers, or whatever. That's all they can do right now. And I think the numbers are less than we would have seen 3 to 6 months ago or a year ago, much less than a year ago. So their resources are degraded. The fight inside the country that the Mossad is conducting has severely disrupted their leadership's movements and their units' movements. And I'm sure there's a search and destroy mission ongoing with the IRGC forces that are usually putting their thumb on the population, which to me says there's still an opening for the population to rise up and remove these people from their power positions and take over this country again for the Persians, instead of letting it continue to be ruled by the despots.
Well, let's go to Annie on that point, because Annie, I know you and I have been saying for a couple of weeks that instead of going to war, maybe what we should do is bring in the prince into the Oval Office, let him sit in one of the yellow chairs, and say, "Hey, look, we need to encourage the Iranians to throw off this regime, and maybe we could work in the back channels to do that, make it an organic movement." But I guess that ship has sailed, has it not?
The ship has sailed for Trump, but it hasn't for the prince or the Iranian people. If I could give, I have so much update, but let me just start with this update. I just posted it. We are now seeing videos coming from Tehran. Iranian people are on the rooftops chanting "Death to Khamenei."
Hold on a second. Let me have my camera, my computer button. Can you guys?
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, I can control what we go to at times. So there you go. Thank you. So I was going to go to that. So that's your latest deal. I'll be using that a lot tonight, Caleb. Thank you, Caleb. All right, that's your liveuptofreedom.substack.com.
Correct. So Khamenei finally came out, released a video addressing the nation and addressing the Israeli government. I actually translated it, created a voiceover for it, put it out in full English for everyone to understand. And I guess my takeaway, the regime is done. If you listen to this video, just look at him. He's done. He's making all the empty threats. He is. But the demeanor, the face, the reaction from last time to today, he's not even trying, Brannon. And as I was saying, about an hour ago, Iranian people in Tehran are on their rooftops chanting death to Khamenei, death to dictator. So the uprising has already started. And then you have Prince Pahlavi, who issued a statement towards the police and military of Iran saying, join the people.
Okay, say that again. The prince who I think is in Washington, D.C. a lot of the time.
Yes.
The Shah's son has made a video saying what?
It's actually a tweet. He put it both in Farsi and English, requesting for the police, law enforcement, police of Iran, and the military members, not IRGC, the military members, to join the people of Iran, because they have weapons, to finish the regime.
Wow. Do you think the military would join in on that, some of them?
Yes. During Mahsa Amini uprising, they did. We had certain bases who actually opened the door and allowed citizens to grab weapons. That's how they achieved what they achieved back then. And now, to top it all, Bibi Netanyahu put out a video. I was on air, so I want to say 4 or 5 hours ago, directly talking to the people of Iran. And I'm going to try to remember as much as I can, but he said, while we're achieving our objective, which is to destroy the nuke, this is an opening for you to reach your objective, which is freedom. I'm asking you to get back, unite, and overthrow the regime. So you have the prince, you have Netanyahu, both calling for people to get on the street. So again, back to answering. This definitely, President Trump has zero popularity with Iranians, yours truly included. That ship sailed with him.
Why?
But the opportunity, why?
Mm-hmm.
Because when our prince reached out to President Trump on January 20th to give him a chance to make a bigger history than a bunch of fake, phony Abraham Accords, President Trump couldn't even acknowledge the letter. When
you're saying the prince wrote to President Trump and the letter went unacknowledged.
100%. And about 3 weeks after that letter was publicly published by the prince, President Trump decided to sit down and negotiate with Iran's regime. And when Israel did the first strike last night, President Trump was nowhere to be found, hiding somewhere for somebody to tell him what to say. And then this morning, he went to Iran and said, see what Israel just did to you? I can control them. Come make a deal with me. Why would he have any popularity with Iranians right now? He pulled the Obama. He pulled the Biden. When there was a chance for Iranians to be freed, he chose to side with the mullahs to make a deal for himself.
Wow.
And I do apologize if I'm offending anyone, but facts are facts.
All right. Well, that's why we love having you on. And you're from there, okay? So you have some real skin in the game. You want to go back, but you couldn't go back right now.
Oh, no, I couldn't.
No. Let me bring in David Pine. David, what do you make of what Annie's saying? Obviously, she's very passionate. She's from there. What do you make of what she's saying tonight?
Well, I think on one side, I think that would be an amazing development. I would love to see that. Obviously, I would love to see Iran freed. I think Jimmy Carter betrayed Iran to the Ayatollah Khomeini, and that was a disgrace. It was a massive defeat for the U.S. Iran, when it was a U.S. ally, was one of the strongest allies we had in the Middle East, and it had good relations with Israel. It was part of CENTO. Obviously, it was the keystone of CENTO back then. But today, it's obviously it's been a terrorist regime that's killed Americans and obviously supported attacks on Israel. My fear is that any attempt to, especially Western-backed foreign attempt to destabilize and overthrow the Ayatollahs could be met with massive retaliation. And, Iran has a lot of options. They have a lot of weapons, as we've discussed. I believe the chances are extremely high that they already have a small nuclear arsenal, likely that they had it for about a decade. They also have massive cyber attack capabilities, obviously not nearly as good as the US, Russia, or China, or even North Korea, but still substantial enough to take down our grid and our critical infrastructure for a matter of several weeks, if not months. They have super EMP satellites deployed over the US that could destroy the US and kill 250 million Americans within a year. So this is a very dangerous situation. And, I want to state that, I'm stunned at the military success of Israel, of course, helped by massive U.S. intelligence sharing, that they were able to be so successful in their first strike, decapitating Iran's military leadership, seriously degrading their nuclear production capabilities as well as their missile capabilities. But unfortunately, my assessment is Iran's nuclear missiles remain safe and secure inside hardened underground silos that are up to half a mile deep, which the U.S. doesn't even have the capability to take out in terms of many of the deep underground silos. And this is creating an existential threat, not just for Israel, but for the U.S. as well.
Leo?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Annie.
I just want to add something, just in case if I wasn't clear. Myself or Iranians have never asked for any military help from the U.S. because as an American, I also understand that's going to put my fellow Americans in danger. The complaint is, don't pick a side. If you choose not to pick a side because it's dangerous, don't enable the enemy. The problem with President Trump's action is that he chose to enable the enemy or appease the enemy. There is no expectations of U.S. even trying, or even CIA trying to do another color revolution like they did in '79. We simply ask President Trump to stop negotiating with the regime and let the people handle it.
Wow. Leo, what are your thoughts on everything you're hearing tonight and what you've been seeing today?
It's interesting. The different views just on the panel are interesting.
It does get complicated, and you can see the truth in every one of the panel's comments tonight, right? I mean, I can agree with parts of or wholes of everything that people have said tonight. War is a very difficult thing, and I think
absolutely
Colonel Maness and David Pine both know that from experience.
I've been a little shocked at the American Christian community cheering for the war. That doesn't set well with me because at the end of the day, people on both sides are dying. And I don't think President Trump ever made a serious effort to make a deal with Iran. I think that was all for show. I think the plan all along was to launch this attack. Because if he was serious about a negotiated settlement on Iran's nuclear facilities, I think he would have gone about it in a different way. The entire strategy, from what I could tell, was take my deal or I'm going to bomb you to smithereens. That doesn't work with any country. I mean, I've never seen that type of negotiation in any diplomatic settlement in the history of the world that I've studied. You can try it, but I don't think that you can maybe hope it's going to work, and there might have been an outside chance it would have worked. But I would say it was very small, and certainly he had to have known that. But with President Trump's ego, maybe he didn't. Maybe he actually thought that he could get a deal. But it was not done the right way, and his advisors had to have known that. I've seen lies. I've seen him say one thing one day and something that contradicts it the next day. I think he's handled it badly. I wish it was President Trump who was getting on his soapbox and telling the people of Iran to get out in the streets and make their move now for freedom. Instead, it's Bibi Netanyahu. I don't think that's going to be productive whatsoever. And so far, I don't see it. I don't see Iranians out in the streets. And so to me, that's the evidence that Netanyahu's words are going to fall flat. President Trump, possibly, if he had seized the opportunity, could have had a little more success. But again, he's silent. So what does this peace president, he claimed to be the peace president. What has he actually done? Can anyone on the panel tell me in the 4 months that he's been in office to promote peace or to actually accomplish anything heading towards peace?
Hold right there, because I want to engage the panel when we come back. Aaron, I know, is eager to talk. The computer is going to take it away. So we're going to get to Aaron, and then I want to bring in, again, Colonel Manus to respond to some of this. Again, this is why we bring you a panel like this, folks. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com.
Looking for a trusted source to understand today's world through a Christian worldview? Worldview Tube is built on the 35 years of worldview books, columns, research, and high-profile interviews of Brannon House. Want to know more about Worldview Tube? Its founder, history, team, and mission? Visit worldviewtube.com/about. That's worldviewtube.com/about. Worldview Tube is your source for understanding the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
And welcome back to the broadcast. Let me just ask you real quick. Do you appreciate what we're doing here? If you do, folks, worldviewfoundation.com. We do need your support. We are a listener-supported network, pushing it all out for free on multiple platforms, folks. Like yesterday, Logan said we had some of the highest streams he has ever seen. We were on the phone today with our IT guy. Same thing. So clearly, folks, what we presented last night with the panel, many of them that are with us tonight were on that panel, is what many people want. They want to have conversations like we're having now, everything from Bible prophecy, as we did with Dr. Rob Lindstedt, to the issues of Iran, national security, Israel, what's going to happen to us. We're about to get into that because there's a big parade tomorrow in D.C., while there's also a gigantic protest. I guess they're saying now like 2,000. Now, I don't know if this will be a big nothing burger or not. I pray it is. But there's also a big parade tomorrow. They're expecting 200,000 people for that. We'll show you some video footage that's come out tonight as they're preparing for that. So again, if you appreciate what we're doing, we need your support, worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. I take it every day, and I've been taking it since December of 2023. My hands would crack and bleed for years. Turns out that was eczema. Couldn't do anything to get rid of it. Lotion. I mean, we tried everything for years. I even would have my wife grease these hands up and put gloves on them and sleep with gloves on, thinking that maybe by morning that would heal up those cracks. Constantly blood on my ties and shirts when I get dressed in the morning, put my hands on my legs under the studio desk, and I end up with blood on my khaki pants or even the sheets every night. It was, and not to mention the pain. And frankly, it wasn't real pretty. A little embarrassing. Couldn't ever get rid of it. My wife forced me onto Bella Grace. I was like, that's good for you. No problem. You can be the spokesperson for it. No, she's like, you don't have an option. You're taking it. And within a few weeks, my hands healed. December 2023. They've not cracked since, except for one time. I got pneumonia You guys remember that last year? I didn't feel good enough to take anything, frankly. Stopped, and within a week, the cracking started. Got right back on it, hands healed back up. Hair growth, never had like this. My wife will tell you that. My kids will tell you that. And then Pepsid, I don't take one of those every night like I did for years. So apparently I had a leaky gut. That's what Dr. Lucky said. And guess what your gut's made of? Collagen. What's in this? High-end collagen. Oh, you say, well, I put collagen in my coffee. Yeah, it's likely the cheap stuff. And 95% of that, you're flushing down the toilet. Peptides are cut short, high-end, and then the peptides are cut short, so your body actually absorbs it. Then it's added with astaxanthin that crosses the brain-blood barrier, so it's getting into your system. And then the cat's claw that brings down the inflammation. Where I buy my vests, a lady knows me very well, and my wife and I went in over on Saturday, or maybe it was Sunday there, and she hadn't seen me in about 6 months. And she said to my wife, like I wasn't standing there, "What has he done?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, your hair, I've never seen it that long before. And she said, and your jaws are chiseled. I said, wow, honey, go buy 10 more vests. Find 10 more vests, because she puts her little tag on there so she gets commission. Go buy 10 more for her. I said, what are you talking about? And she didn't see me in 6 months. And I said, well, I think it's the Bella Gracemon that lowers the inflammation in the face. So she noticed. And so I think a lot of folks will notice too when you get on it. You can support us and your health, I think, at the same time. MelissaHouseBG.com. 80 clinical trials behind it, folks. You can check it out. All the details are there at MelissaHouseBG.com. Let's go to Aaron in Israel, our reporter on the ground, brought to you in part by our foundation. Aaron, what do you make of what Annie is saying, what all the panelists are saying tonight? And what do you think about what Benjamin Netanyahu has said to the folks of Iran?
Yeah, I think his reaching out there is trying to build that bridge. And that's why I mentioned earlier, I wonder if the Mossad are acting in a shadow way from behind the scenes. Something that Leo was saying about, 4 months Trump has been in power, and what has he really done to bring peace? I wonder what really spins his wheel, what motivates him. He wears the hat, make America great again. From what perspective is he looking at making America great again? I would imagine in his eyes, when he came back from the Middle East a few weeks ago, I would imagine his smile would have gone from grin to grin. He came back with $1 trillion in his pocket. Him stepping up, him not stepping up, him speaking, him not speaking. I think it's all tactical. That guy, in some ways, he's a genius, and he's the master of the deal. I wonder if it's the when making America great again, at this stage, it's purely from an economical point of view. We know that making deals with some of those nations in the Middle East, including Syria, we talk about that. In some ways, he was selling America's soul, but on the other hand, from his perspective, he was making the economy great again, creating jobs again. This is actually, believe me, I'm not comparing him to Adolf Hitler, but when Adolf Hitler went to war in the Second World War, he put money in 1 million German pockets by creating work, building weapons, building tanks, building uniforms. The economy, that's the thing that he felt he needed to attack and help. And I just, it concerns me. On the one hand, I get it. I understand he's the president. He wants to build up the economy, but at what cost? That's the thing. And I think him stepping back, him not standing up and speaking, I think remember, he's got Saudi Arabia waiting in the wings. They're very quiet right now. Even Turkey, he talks about how he likes Erdogan. He likes Erdogan. And now he's almost calling Jolani from Syria, who a few months ago had a $10 million bounty on his head. He's like calling him a friend as well. So I'm not putting down President Trump. but I just question his motives and what's spinning his wheel. And I just hope that, Israel doesn't pay a price because of that as well.
I want to show you something from Michael Yon and have Colonel Manus respond to this. Our buddy Michael Yon put out this on Substack tonight. Predictions. Watch how they come true, he writes. Wars grow, so this war will grow. Wars grow unpredictably, so this war will grow unpredictably. Wars last longer than expected. Tell me when it ends. The endings typically surprise to nearly everyone. Tell me how this ends. Another note on war prediction. Do not listen to those who pushed, coddled, and baited Americans into believing the Ukraine-Gaza war conflicts were wise or a pushover. Obviously, they were amazingly wrong. Meanwhile, tensions are growing in Panama. Mexican president declared war on the United States. And within the U.S., while actors push and pull us into the war with Iran. I'm in Texas for a short time longer. Thank you for your support. What do you make of war correspondent Michael Yon's comments? War grows, this war will grow. Wars grow unpredictably, this war will grow unpredictably. Wars last longer than expected. Tell me when it ends. The endings typically surprise to nearly everyone. Tell me how this ends. What do you make of that?
He's absolutely right. I agree with him 100%. I tweeted out several single line tweets today, starting with war is not surgical. People that are familiar with warfare like to use that term.
And I badly used it. I badly used the term today. I used the term on the radio today, and Logan later said, do you know he tweeted against people using that phrase, and you turned around and used it today? I'm like, yeah, I'm a ding-a-ling.
Yeah. but war is also not clean, okay? War, and Michael's right, wars grow. War is unpredictable. As he said, that is why the Iranians, or the leadership of the regime, they're learning a very hard lesson right now. They thought they could get away with the small chipping away with the proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, etc., and all that for several years, and then go in with this October 7th, 2023 attack. They thought they could really get away with that. And let's be clear: this attack by Israel is not a new war. Iran has been at war with Israel for years now, okay? And I'm sure Israel would like to have the Gaza operations completely finished by now, but look at all the infrastructure that countries like the United States funded that's underneath the ground in that little patch of ground. That's got to be destroyed, completely and utterly destroyed, in order for Israel to exist without facing any fear from that patch of ground again. So it's a big deal. War is very unpredictable. They always go longer than the great planners and predictors and prognosticators say they're going to go. And guess what? The old adage, the enemy always gets a vote, no matter what. That's what Israel is teaching this lesson to the mullahs right now tonight. They did it to Hezbollah. They did it to Hamas brilliantly. And now they're doing it to the Iranian mullahs brilliantly. And they are creating a small space for the civilian population of Persians in Iran to rise up and remove this cancer from the face of the earth. I don't know if that could happen. I don't advocate for the United States or Israel to send forces in there, not even intelligence forces. I know Israel's got some Mossad folks on the ground in there already, but I don't advocate for us to do a color revolution. This has got to be done by the Persian people that are the owners of that ground.
It sounds like you're agreeing with Annie tonight, which is the Iranians are saying...
This has always been my position.
Wow.
But the Iranian opposition that's outside of the country also has to come to terms with each other. Okay? There are several little groups here that are fractured. Okay? So those folks have to get their leaders together and come together in order to do that. And they should already be talking. If any one group is serious that's outside the country right now, they should have already been talking together. I hope that's happening. I have no idea. I'm not on the inside of anything. I'm just a civilian.
Are you talking about
I'm talking about the Iranian opposition groups, the NCRI group, the Prince. All of those groups have to work together in order for what I want to see happen happen, which is the downfall of this regime at the hands of the Iranian people, the Persians.
I guess
let me finish though. Though, Brandon. Look, war should be always a last resort. Israel saw this as a last resort. I support their right to defend themselves against the Iranians' ability to use nuclear weapons on them. And like David, I believe the Iranians, not for a decade like he does, but I believe the Iranians have had for some time now, at least a couple of years, at least 5, maybe 10 nuclear warheads that are mateable to a missile, a medium-range missile. Why they haven't used it yet, I don't know. The Israelis probably surprised them, and they've disrupted that process enough to where they can't get it done right now. But that doesn't mean they destroyed it. Second is war. Let me explain. War is unpredictable. I've seen all of these things, and I've even said, hey, the Israelis have done things like create air dominance, and that's true. But when you talk about bomb damage assessment, BDA, from an strictly air combat operation like what Israel is trying to do, it is extremely difficult to nail down this statement. We have destroyed whatever, you name it, the missile capability of the Iranians to shoot missiles, the drone capability, we've destroyed this, we've destroyed that. It's extremely difficult to get that BDA in this short amount of time. As a matter of fact, the United States does it by sending teams in on the ground after the war to actually confirm what we said we thought we did. That's how difficult it is to achieve an adequate analysis and assessment of bomb damage analysis, BDA, so that you can understand what you did and then shift your plans, because once the war starts, the first plan doesn't survive contact and you're constantly facing new situations, as somebody has mentioned in this. That's why war is so difficult. That is exactly why they always last longer than the planners expected. That's why people like Lindsey Graham shouldn't be out here cheerleading about it. Although I support Israel's right to defend itself, and I absolutely despise the Iranians. I've been dealing with them as a military person since I was 17 years old in the hostage crisis, and I'm glad to see these people get taken down and to be made a husk of what they once were. But there's no telling and no predictability in that things will remain the same and stay that way. Now, as long as the Israelis are conducting these operations at the pace and the depth and the expertise level that they're conducting them, the Iranians will remain a husk of what they were in the eyes of a lot of intelligence specialists, political leaders like Lindsey Graham, and these pundits out here that say, you got to go get them. But the United States has got to go on offense. I don't even agree that we should be doing defense for Israel.
Oh, wow.
I don't believe we should be doing that. I don't believe we should be involved at all unless our forces are attacked, and then we should respond and obliterate them.
Wow.
But we should not be involved in this.
So
this is Israel's fight. That's why the president, let me finish. That's why the president is operating the way he's operating. I disagree that he has done nothing for 4 months to achieve peace. He wants to be known as the president for peace. He's said it over and over again before and after he took office this time. He's trying to give peace the space that any space that might be left in this particular situation with the Iranian regime. One more opportunity to see if we can take this whole thing down and stop it without going any further into warfare by involving the United States. That's what he's trying to do. And when you look at it from that lens, that's exactly what I expected him to do. That's what I voted for. I voted for him to get the Russians and the Ukrainians to the table, which he's done twice now. He hasn't achieved what I was hoping to achieve, or that he said he was hoping to achieve in the time that he wants to do it. But the process has started. Okay, so that's where he's coming from. He's got a base of voters, folks, that voted for him to not get involved in any more endless wars, especially in the Middle East.
That's right.
Because those voters are like me, combat veterans. We demanded that he not do it. And people think that MAGA is going to fracture over this. No, we're not, because he's operating the way we expected him to operate. He's trying to achieve peace, and he's going to give it all the way to the last stand. And the 60-day thing, I believe he was serious about that. That doesn't mean that we weren't talking to the Israelis and the Israelis weren't talking to us and in on plans together and those kind of things, or that even it was a ruse on the president's part. I don't agree with that. Somebody has used that characterization. And I want you to know that no American authority, not one, has agreed with the Israeli government people that's where this is coming from, that said the president was in on it all along and agreed with it and green lighted it, et cetera, because I don't think the timing was good for the president's goals or our goals. Okay. And that's just the facts of the way it is. So I disagree with that characterization of the president that he was in on some kind of ruse. No, it's just the way things go. You plan, you work together, you talk, so you deconflict, so you don't take lives that you don't intend to take. Yeah, at the time that, and everything waits until the time is right. All right, so that's that. And here's the last thing, and then I'll stop, Brandon. This president, when he sets a strategic goal, the people that are MAGA voters have had to learn this the hard way, because if you look at how he operates in Republican primaries, he will endorse people that the base hates. When he knows that person is going to win the election anyway, and they're going to be in an important position. Case in point, Senator Roger Wicker, who is one of my senators here, he endorsed him in the primary at the last minute because he knew he was going to win, and he knew he was going to be the head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and he made a promise that he would rebuild the U.S. military and get us back to strength so we could have peace instead of all these wars breaking out. That's the other thing that people have to remember. The MAGA base has learned that they're always going to have to look at things through the lens of Donald Trump and how Donald Trump operates, as opposed to how we want things to operate. That's the same thing that's happening right now when I hear the discussion around the panel and around the veritable table of the world today, with people that are frustrated with him in particular about this particular situation. But I have an understanding, because I've learned these hard lessons over many, many years now, and made these observations, and it helps me go, okay, I see what the strategic goal is. As long as he's working towards that, that's what I wanted him to do. I'm going to give him the opportunity to do it. Now, the Iranian regime, they're probably not going to come to the table. So the Israelis are ready to continue going, and they should be acting like they're acting and putting Israel first. But the Donald's got to put America first and Americans first. And that means we shouldn't be involved in this other than a support role, logistics, that kind of stuff. Intelligence. Like we did the Ukrainians. All right. And that's where he's at. That's where he's going. That doesn't mean he's going to be successful. Look, the guy may think he's perfect, but he's not perfect. I mean, we're all human beings. I mean, he's failed more times than he's been successful. That's why he's a successful businessman. All of us that operate at this level have done that. Okay, so this could fail from our perspective, but he's going to give it everything he's got, and that's what I see that he's doing. And I'm not apologizing for him at all, or even defending him. I'm just calling it the way I've seen it work out and the way he operates, and what I'm expecting him to do, which is to give peace to the last opportunity to give peace, and to not get Americans involved in another war in the Middle East at all.
Yeah. And I think
can I respond to that?
Yeah, let me have Leo respond. But before I do,
I'd like to respond as well.
I think the only thing that shocked me about that, Colonel, was that you don't think, and I'm not saying you're wrong, I just was not expecting you to say that. So make sure I understand. You don't think we should even be involved in knocking down missiles coming in from Iran and helping Israel do that?
No, look, we've got problems right here on this soil.
I agree.
That are major, magnified problems from the CCP in China, and in the tens of thousands of potential saboteurs that are Iranian, Venezuelan, Hamas. All of them are here on this soil.
I am so glad to hear you say this.
Hundreds of thousands of dead Americans from fentanyl. We have thousands of dead Americans in Section 60, like Steve Bannon said on air today. Go walk it. Enough of this. This Iraq thing was built on a pack of lies. People that I grew up respecting and served under told a pack of lies to get us into Iraq. So enough. That's what MAGA voted for Donald Trump a second time for, a major portion of it. And no, I don't believe that we should be even firing missiles off of our guided missile cruisers and destroyers in a defensive mode either, unless our forces are suspected of being targeted. And that could be the case of what's happening and people are misconstruing it. Who knows?
Wow.
I don't have any classified information, so I don't know. All I can do is I'm just seeing what you're seeing.
I'm going to have Dave.
That's why people like me are so adamantly opposed to Americans given one more drop of blood. I've advocated for all the Americans. There's 50,000 Americans in the Middle East to be pulled out. There's no strategic America first vital national interest to be there. We don't need the oil. And we're getting them to invest in the country already. So why are they there?
I agree.
No reason.
There's
no reason to be there.
I agree. And maybe I haven't been listening, but I don't know if I've ever heard you mention this so strongly. I'm going to have David respond after Leo. But Leo, I agree with the Colonel. And I think that's consistent with you and I've been saying. Your book, Stealth Invasion, we've been talking about the terror cells. We've been talking about Hezbollah that's here. We've been talking about Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, all these people that are here. And like I was been saying yesterday, today, if Iran is an existential threat to Israel, then Israel can deal with it. But we have our own existential threats. That's what I was saying yesterday. That's what I was saying today. And yet, how many of these mosques in America where the imams are preaching overthrow America, jihad, take out America, kill the Christian and the Jew in jihad? How about all the farmland that again, China owns near our bases? Gordon Chang pointed out tonight, some guy, CP guy trying to buy a building at the end of a runway. That didn't work out, so he thought he'd go buy it at the other end of the runway. We have all these existential threats. But very few people are talking about all of these mosques, other than you, me, Annie, David Gobbets, and and a few others. So the Colonel's nailing the part about us, but I don't even think a lot of the MAGA people know what we know about the Islamists and how deep they're embedded in America. But go ahead, Leo.
Well, I think everybody on the panel agrees that they don't want to see America drawn into this war.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think we agree on that. I just don't know that we agree on what type of policy is going to prevent that. Because the policy that I see President Trump pursuing, to me, Colonel Manus sees it as giving peace every last chance. I see it as opening up Pandora's box. When you unleash Israel to do what it's doing, you are now, like I said last night, you're allowing Israel to eliminate one enemy and potentially create new enemies that are much stronger than Iran. They already have these enemies, right? I don't think China and Russia were great friends of Israel, but by the events of last night and today and a protracted war, and I agree 100% with Michael Yon that this is going to last a lot longer than things. Every day that it does last, I think the chances increase that outside countries are going to get involved. Whether that be Russia, whether that be China, whether that be Turkey or some other country, I don't know. But when that happens, as this war lags on and other entities, other national entities, sovereign countries get involved, I don't see how the United States is going to stay out of it, okay? I think it increases the chances of the United States getting into another forever war, more devastating perhaps than any other war we've gotten into, because it's called World War III, okay? That's my perspective. I don't disagree with the Colonel that the object is to keep the United States out of it. I just disagree with how we're going to keep the United States out of it. I think diplomacy would have worked better.
David Pine?
Before this war started, Russia warned that an Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear sites would likely result in uncontrolled global escalation. Today, they warned it could result in regional nuclear escalation. So, first they warned of World War III before the attack. Now they're warning of a regional nuclear war, and you can't have a regional nuclear war unless both sides have nukes. So they just let the cat out of the bag. Iran has nukes. And they can use them on Israel if they want to, but I don't think they will, but they could. And that's a threat that I think these Israeli strikes are actually exacerbating rather than preempting. But both Rob and Leo have made some great points, and I probably don't have time to address them all, but I just wanted to underscore what Leo said, and that is this represents a tremendous foreign policy failure on the part of the Trump administration. They are 0-3 when it comes to peace agreements. They started out with the Gaza war ceasefire. That was a tremendous victory for the U.S. and I would argue Israel as well. That was violated 2 months later, and now Israel's back in a cutthroat war in which they've lost, according to some sources, up to 12,000 killed and wounded. In a war that's unwinnable, where Hamas has actually recruited a lot more fighters than they had at the beginning of the war. Then of course, there was the Ukraine war negotiations, where Trump essentially presented a peace plan, a peace proposal, a 22-point Kellogg peace proposal, which they knew that Russia would reject. No negotiations have ever been held between the U.S. and Russia to negotiate those peace points and come to an agreement. So Trump essentially gave up on that one as well. And then now we have this Iran peace deal, which, obviously the Israeli strikes have caused Iran to state today that they are indefinitely suspending all peace negotiations with the United States over their nuclear deterrent, which they're essentially saying will now be unconstrained. They will accelerate their nuclear program, and they will build it up as quickly as possible to restore deterrence with Israel. So I guess I take a different point from some of the other statements that have been stated. But I love what Rob stated about the need for the U.S. to withdraw our troops from the Middle East, as well as the need for us to stay out of the war, because we're already a direct participant in the conflict. The U.S. is actively shooting down incoming missiles headed for Israel, and that is a direct. It's a defensive involvement, but it's still an involvement in the war that's direct.
And David, by the way, my red alert app is going off, so more rockets coming in. I want to go to Aaron real quick. But David, to your point, look at the Jerusalem Post headline, David. Iranian official threatens any country that helps Israel risks becoming new targets. So, okay, we've helped. Now we're a new target. Now, how
Iran has stated that.
How quick?
They stated that from out of the gate. That's not new.
No, it's not new, but they're reiterating this tonight. And we know, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but you talk about all the problems here in our country, Colonel, that we could be dealing with. I mean, there are some that are so simple. And here's one of them right here. If I can pull it up, find it. It comes from American Truckers. We broke this story. We went and we interviewed them, and then for a couple days and helped them take it viral, and then Fox News picked it up and others. But we broke this story, and this guy thanked us for breaking it because he's over in Arkansas. But here's a national security threat that we ought to be dealing with. Now, I know President Trump has signed some things, but clearly we're not doing enough fast enough, because the majority of the truckloads in America's two largest ports, are now being hauled by non-citizen truck drivers when shipped over the road by semi-truck. This is a national security threat that should be addressed immediately. So here we are with what we just had happen. We have very few of these cargo ships being scanned, and now we have non-citizen truck drivers driving humongous trucks all over the country. I think this is to the point of Colonel Manis a while ago. We got massive internal problems here in the country. You want to comment on this, David?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So from my standpoint, the the foremost mission and purpose of U.S. national security policy should be to ensure the safety and protection of 285 million Americans living here in the United States. And instead, we are pursuing escalatory policies, both with regards to the war in Ukraine and which is a proxy war for the U.S. against Russia, and then another proxy war against Iran, which is being waged by Israel, that are making the U.S. much less safe and really hyping up the threat level. Because threat, of course, we know is both intent and capabilities. And of course, we know Russia has the ability to destroy us. We know China has the ability to destroy us. Iran, I believe, also likely has the ability to destroy us. But instead of moving forward with some kind of peace agreement with Russia and making them a strategic partner, dividing the Sino-Russian alliance, and taking the Russian nuclear threat off the table, we're continuing to wage Biden's war in Ukraine. And then with regards to Iran, instead of having some kind of flawed deal or even a non-deal and continuing maximum sanctions, but staying out of the proxy war between Israel and Iran, where Trump is supporting it. And I would argue that he is. If George W. Bush was president today, I don't think he would have done much differently than Trump has with regards to the wars in Ukraine and Iran.
Let me go to Aaron. My red alert app is going off. It has been now for several minutes. We're getting word that Iran is sending in more missiles. Aaron, what's the latest? Are people heading back to the... He's joining on a different device. All right, so Aaron's joined... All right, he had to get up and leave his seat because I think he's headed to the bomb shelter. Aaron, are you there?
Yeah, I was in the bomb shelter and I just came back.
How long you been gone?
About 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
That's all.
Give us the latest report. We're getting right now what looks like dramatic moments as a THAAD missile defense system intercepts an incoming Iranian ballistic missile high above the Earth's atmosphere. That's what we're being told, at least. What are you hearing?
Just that another barrage was sent and it came from the north. So that's probably Hezbollah from Lebanon. And we got that warning about an hour ago that a barrage was on its way. So that's what they threatened that they would do, and that's what they are doing.
See, well, wait a minute. I thought Hezbollah was wiped out. I thought that their total
the missiles are coming from Shiraz, Aaron. I'm getting confirmation here. They're sending them from Shiraz, which is Midwest, closer to north of Iran.
So it's not Hezbollah?
No, it's coming directly from Iran.
That would make sense. Okay.
Hezbollah openly stated they weren't going to participate.
Okay, well, that's interesting because my reports were that they came from the north, or at least the north was under attack. So I need to check on that.
Annie, we are getting reports that there are people in Iran tonight that are cheering what Israel is doing to the regime. This is reportedly from several sources tonight. Can you validate this?
If you remember, I started when you brought me on originally, I said there are people chanting on the roofs, and there are people who are asking, literally, there are videos of people asking for Netanyahu to finish this.
Woo.
It's again, one thing I want to put out here, because I think it's important, we're talking about how Iran is attacking Israel, but I do have confirmation, and this one actually I sent some pictures to Logan, comes from a person that I know since I was a kid, and they're in their area. Israel just took out the Alborz province, which is right outside of Tehran. They just took their entire telecommunication. From phones, radios, everything was taken out.
Wow. Hold right there, Annie. We got a break. The computer's going to take it. We'll come back. More reports from Annie and our panel. We won't go too much longer. It's been a long week, but we got more to cover. We'll be right back. July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from this from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a TULP treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gatatana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain of phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper, and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. One scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gatatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
We are getting reports tonight that U.S. Navy is moving in ships to shield Israel. I can't confirm these reports or this next one, that there are now American helicopters flying on the Iranian border. Again, I cannot confirm. I'm just telling what's there. Aaron, real quick before we go back to Annie, what are you hearing about Navy ships moving into the area to shield Israel?
Well, yeah, that's a report that I just got, that the USS Thomas Hoodner is heading to the Eastern Mediterranean, joining 8 more destroyers that are already positioned across the 5th and 6th fleets. You've got the USS Carl Vinson that remains in the CENTCOM. So, yeah.
And wait. And the Nimitz may be rerouted if escalation continues.
Right, also. And that's something that Leo was saying earlier, that it just seems that the Americans are feeding Israel what we need. They're not getting directly involved. They're providing planes for refueling. They're going to help us with our air defense missiles. So, America are involved in this, and that's because this is a war against America as well. But like Trump said to Bibi when Bibi was in Washington a couple of months ago, remember what Trump said? That Bibi will be the one that leads the attack. He made it clear back then. He put the ball in Bibi's court. And that's what's happening. Bibi is stepping up, much to a lot of people's surprise, that they knowing that Bibi's brother died in the Entebbe raid, that left a scar on Bibi's life. And maybe he really didn't have it in him, but he's really stepping up and showing that he's got some steel there. And like I said yesterday, I wonder what his enemies here in Israel and abroad, I wonder what they're saying about him now, whether they're agreeing with him or not.
Let me come back to the U.S., Aaron. One American News, which actually they carry us on one of their big platforms that Logan got us on with One American News. We've known them and their administration for the last few years. It's been great to work with them at many levels. But One American News is now reporting tonight, here's some video, that anti-ICE protesters have broken through the barriers of the U.S. Capitol tonight. I guess they're being escorted out and off. I guess that's what you call an insurrection if the standards stay the same. So the insurrection, there you go. I wonder if they'll get 4 years or 3 years in prison without a trial or any bond or court date. Well, I hope not, because we don't actually we need the Constitution honored. So they ought to get a swift and speedy trial, their bond and whatever, wait for the court date. You don't stable a republic by acting like the tyrants, right? You give them the rule of law and hope that restores the rule of law. But there you go. That's going on. I don't know what to expect tomorrow. I do know we have a big parade. They're expecting maybe 200,000 people tomorrow. They've put up a lot of metal detectors, and they're already asking for people to be very patient. The traffic is going to be a bear. Here's a report from one man who I think is kind of in charge of some of this, and he's going to show you actually where President Trump's going to be standing tomorrow.
So I am standing right now where the President of the United States is going to be standing this Saturday for the Army's 250th birthday. Behind me is going to be the parade, but right there is the White House. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. We are going to have Bradley tanks, Strikers, M1 Abrams. We're going to have flyovers of F-22s, a whole bunch of the might of America. We're going to have 250 soldiers re-enlisting right here. Secretary of Defense, Vice President of the United States, President of the United States, as the Golden Knights descend from the skies with the flag at sunset to hand the President of the United States a flag after soldiers re-enlist. This is going to be amazing. We have Warren Ziders, who's going to be doing a musical performance starting at 6:30 p.m. right here. So tune in, because this is an amazing opportunity. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to see and celebrate American soldiers and their service. We're going to have people dressed in the appropriate apparel from conflicts from World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, Korean War, the obviously global war on terror. Support our soldiers. Check it out this Saturday. Support the greatest nation to have ever existed. 6:30 p.m. God bless America. Stay safe, stay free.
All right, and we'll be covering it here on Worldview Tube at 5:30 Central. He's mentioning East Coast time, but everything runs on Central. We all know that. 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. We'll be covering the whole parade here for you to celebrate. And I think David is most particularly excited, being a former Army guy. Are you not, David?
I am. I love military parades. It's not often we see that here in America. I think the last one we had that was really big was after Operation Desert Storm, and that was there's some great pictures from that. I wish I could have attended it.
Well, we'll be covering it here tomorrow night. Tell everybody, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. Closing comment for you with a heart out tonight, Colonel, before I get one from everybody else.
I'll just say that, I don't think it'll be very much longer that the president will give peace a chance in this conflict between Israel and Iran, because he knows that the timing is important and that the longer we go, the risk is higher. I think he will push to not have the energy and oil ports attacked. Because that might actually bring the Chinese in, since they get so much of their fuel from the Iranians through those ports. And I think that's why they haven't been struck yet tonight. And I think you'll continue to see Hezbollah and Hamas essentially being decimated, stay out of this to the max extent they can. And the Iranians, they'll be weakly responding until the Israelis stop their operations, and then after that, I'm sure they've got enough left, and they'll have reconstituted their command and control, and they'll start firing missiles again, unfortunately. But tomorrow, the No Kings demonstration leaders have said, everybody go to Philadelphia instead of Washington, D.C., because I think the president's words today about we will meet them with very much more force than they bring if they come here. That scared them off.
Well, we're going to be covering that tomorrow. Let's pray nothing happens. Colonel, your show airs every day right here at Worldview Tube at 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern. RobManus.com is his website as well, RobManus.com. Colonel, I know you got a heart out, so thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Brandon, and pray for peace.
Absolutely. Colonel Rob Manus. All right, let's go to all the other guys and one gal. Get a closing comment from all of you. Let's start ladies first. Annie?
If our audience would check out my Substack or Facebook, I've been posting every 5-minute updates on great progress made by Israel towards Iran. I know there's a lot of report going on what's happening with Iran attacking back, but I want you to follow what's happening. Netanyahu is taking this very serious, and as he said earlier this afternoon, he is serious. I want to again be very clear because it seemed like I was misunderstood. I am not asking for America to get involved either. I prefer we wouldn't, and I wish we had a way to stop anybody else to get involved. However, that being said, I personally wake up every morning and I try to see what Jesus would do rather than Trump or Biden or Kamala or Obama or any other man or woman on earth. So fellow Christians, stay in prayer. Remember, God commands us to protect the land of Israel, regardless of how much we disagree with their government or people. So stand with land of Israel as it's commanded to us as Christians. And we're not supposed to have any kind of interaction with the devil. So let's not praise Iran's regime or back him or give him a second or third or 46 years later chances.
liveuptofreedom.substack.com is her website, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. And Annie is on our network as well. Annie, are you every day yet? I can never keep up with the schedule
Monday
myself.
through Friday.
Monday through Friday at?
3 Central, 4 Eastern.
Yeah, 3 Central. That's all that matters. Everybody knows what else. Everybody knows what to work around after that. You know, although 3 Central is great until I get in the East Coast, as I was a few weeks ago, then remarkably everything was running on East Coast time. That's just kind of how it works, isn't it? 3 p.m. Central, 4 Eastern every day, Monday through Friday. Leo, you know what's very interesting? The Communist Party USA. Iran has the right to defend itself. We must not allow our crooked politicians to drag our country into a disastrous war. Tell your elected representatives, hands off Iran. Now, I don't think that's because they're America first somehow, but isn't that interesting?
Yeah, sometimes people can hold the same or similar positions, but for totally different reasons, right?
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, I would just say that we can't, as Christians, believers, we cannot control what's happening right now. God already knows who's going to win the war and what type of settlements are going to be made after the war. If the maps are going to be redrawn, he already knows how that will happen. But we just need to pray. I think it's a Christian thing to do to pray for peace. Okay, pray for peace both internationally, but also here at home. You know, we've got these rallies, protest rallies that could turn into riots in hundreds of cities in our country tomorrow, and even in Canada and some other countries. And one false move by one person could trigger something really bad, okay? So I guess I would just say, stay in prayer, pray for God's will, and be smart. Even if you're going to this parade in Washington, D.C., don't do anything stupid. Don't provoke anyone. I personally would not go. I think it's risky even to be there. But if you are going, try to be level-headed and keep your head on a swivel, as they say. And if you're going to be staying home this weekend, use the time to prepare wisely. God has graciously given us extra time to prepare. So use it wisely. If you need to fill up some gas cans, do that. Fill up your vehicle and fill up some gas cans. If nothing else, the price of fuel is going to go way up in the days ahead. So that wouldn't be a bad thing to do. Same with food, water, matches, candles. all batteries, all of that stuff. Make sure it's topped off and just be prepared mentally, physically, and spiritually for what may be coming.
Well said. And by the way, he mentioned it, so I'll throw it in. You can get most of that, not the gasoline, but you get the rest of it at worldviewstore.com and support the network at the same time. Worldviewstore.com. A lot of it right there. It's in our warehouse, ready to ship right now. Worldviewstore.com. David, let's go to you for your closing comment.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, Trump has had the ability to make peace in terms of Gaza, the war in Ukraine, and now the war in Iran. And he hasn't used it. He actually did, as I mentioned, negotiate a great deal for for Israel and for the U.S., a bad deal for Hamas, and didn't enforce it. He didn't pressure Israel to keep it or honor it, and he had the opportunity to negotiate a peace with Russia, and he hasn't taken that. But this one's even more important because this one is, as Leo mentioned, this is opening Pandora's box. As Russia stated correctly, this could lead to uncontrolled global escalation, and that means World War III. It means potential use of nuclear missiles in the air being fired at different countries, and we would be on the receiving end of some of those missiles. It might not be nuclear. It could be much more likely would be a massive cyber attack that would take out the U.S. For several months, if not for good, causing our government to collapse and our country to cease to exist, making us defenseless against follow-on attacks, including all-out invasion from the communist China. And this is not something that we should be taking lightly. We should not be unconditionally cheering this war because it does have that possibility to lead to the end of our great country, and it also poses an existential threat to Israel that is being exacerbated by the strikes. So I just want to join everyone else in saying that we all pray for peace.
Absolutely. Let me go to one more clip that's coming in here, and this is more of these folks being arrested for crashing the barriers, I guess, we're told, at the U.S. Capitol tonight prior to the parade tomorrow for the 250th anniversary of the Army. So again, it started, I don't know, maybe this will happen more tomorrow. Some reports are these are veterans of the U.S. military that went and sat on the steps in protest of President Trump's, immigration policy. Who knows? But there you go. That's what's going on. Let's go to Aaron for your closing comment. Aaron, by the way, I am continuing to see on social media that Iran is hitting you guys. I know you had to run down to the bunker. What's the latest on that before you go to your closing comment?
Yeah, I saw another report that another barrage has been sent, and down in the south, up in the north as well.
Hold on, we lost Aaron. Can you? Oh, Leo left, so it got a blank here. All right, there you go. You're on your own. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that the another barrage that was sent was intercepted. This is going to be a long days, long war maybe. And, I thought of a verse from Isaiah chapter 9. It says, the people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. And, there is the hope that we are starting to see light at the end of the tunnel regarding the war. But this passage in Isaiah 9, it's a bigger vision here. It's the light of the Messiah, where it goes on to talk about, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. And, ultimately, the bigger picture in all of this is that people will get connected more to their God through the Messiah. And this is a great time to step up and let our light shine in the darkness as our call. In the book of Revelation, which you've been teaching, Brandon, one of the symbols of the church is a menorah. And a menorah is to step up and to let the light shine. So may that be true in Israel and there in America as well.
And we're now getting
Brandon,
more. Yeah, Annie?
Sorry, if I could just say, Aaron, I can't even try to pretend like I can imagine what you're going through. But I just made a post on my Facebook, and I'm waiting for a second confirmation for a second post. But I don't think this is going to be as long as anybody thinks. And I don't think it's going to be long, even days. Because we just got confirmed. I don't know Brandon or Aaron or anyone else on the panel who's still here. If any of you are familiar with pastor, or you might pronounce it differently, but here's a confirmation we do have. The Pastor District Air Defense just got activated, and Pastor is home to Iran's most sensitive military and government compounds, including Khamenei's office, the presidential complex, and IRGC command center.
Wait a minute. They just did what to it?
They just activated the air defense of the area.
So, in other words, Israel is now targeting those areas.
The drones had to get close enough for them to, the missiles had to get close enough for them to activate the air defense, doesn't it?
So are they going after the supreme leader, as they call him?
Yes, and today on my show, Barry Nussbaum, who his family are in Israel, actually, and two of his kids are part of IDF, he actually said that he can't confirm nor deny, but there was an attempt on Khamenei. That's why they moved him, but somehow the IDF missed. But they already went after him.
And if they get him, the whole regime collapses, right?
It's over. If Khamenei's killed, well, the third Khamenei, because we all believe he already died, and the guy who's pretending to be him isn't even his original, but that's besides the point.
Wait a minute. What are you saying? You're saying the guy that they have right now may not even be the original?
We don't think he may not be. We're all, about a good 80% of Iranians, we're pretty sure Khamenei died at some point, but his double stepped up and just stayed as Khamenei.
Wow.
Like, if you want to really get detail, we have done the side-by-side images and using algorithm to show the difference of, our body parts turn to, get bigger. Like, your ears don't shrink when you age. They actually get bigger. His did. His ears are smaller, and the left finger with the ring is different looking. But that is not necessarily the point tonight. But yes, if they do get Khamenei, it's over. It's game over. And again, I'm waiting for confirmation on another report. If I get that confirmation, Brandon, I might actually wake you up and ask you to get on air with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that one's huge.
If they were to take him out, that's worthy of going on the air for Pete's sake. Would you not agree with that, Aaron?
Yes, definitely.
Aaron, you'll be getting him as soon as I have confirmation on they got him, but there's a confirmation of a even bigger than they got him. As soon as I have that confirmation, Aaron, you'll be getting a message from me too.
No, you're not saying that they've got him. Are you saying that there's rumors they may have already gotten him?
No, not at all.
Okay, but there's reasons to believe they're targeting him.
That he is being targeted. So is the presidential complex. So is the pretty much IRGC's what do we call them, headquarters, and their leaders. The whole area is being targeted. But the confirmation I'm waiting for, probably I'm going to give you a call when we get off air, Brandon, to tell you what I'm waiting on confirmation. But bottom line is, and I don't want to, I know you're both tired, but I just want to say, I said this very earlier this morning when I was on the first interview of the day, and I don't mean in any disrespect. Brandon, you know how much I love America and my fellow Americans, but it feels like right now with what's happening with Iran, a lot of Americans, especially those involved in military, they're projecting the Iraq and Afghanistan situation. They're not separating the huge difference between Iran and everything they have faced, all the lies they were fed, all the lives that were taken. That's why it's such a big deal. That's why it's becoming this long letter of war is this and war is that. We're dealing with a country that 70% of its own population is on the streets trying to overthrow the regime.
Right.
That is the difference that seems like a lot of Americans aren't seeing clearly, because they're reflecting into the Iraq war and Afghanistan and the disaster. And it's like I need to remind them that this is a very different scenario.
Indeed,
we don't even need to get involved.
Look at this. This is the shots coming out of Israel again. All the, I mean, it's obviously morning there, but this is where their system is working and intercepting some of these missiles coming in from Iran. So these are all over this morning. What is it going on 5 a.m., 4:45 over there?
5:45.
Oh, 4:46. 4:46. All right.
Quarter to 6. I was actually literally about 10 minutes before the sirens went off. I was just going to leave our update here, and I was so tired. I was just about to go to bed, and then the siren went off, and I thought, well, I'm glad I didn't. Otherwise, it would have woken me up. It's the worst, Brandon, when you're in a deep sleep and that deep siren goes right through you and wakes you up. So hopefully if I go back to sleep for an hour or two now, it won't go off. So
let's pray for that. Let's all pray for that, right? So the Israelis who have been up all night can get some sleep tonight. Absolutely.
But if there is news that the Ayatollah has been taken out, I will be more than glad to be woken up. Ani, I'll be waiting for that report.
Absolutely. Live up to freedom.
You'll be receiving it hopefully soon.
Look at that. Wow. LiveUpToFreedom.com and LightToTheNationsMinistry.com. I would bet then, are we probably the only network that's reporting that the Ayatollah is being targeted? Are we about the only network reporting this?
Yes. We originally broke the inside information with Barry Newsbaum on Worldview Tube during Live Up to Freedom around 4:30 Eastern Time. And then we just talked about it now again on Brown House Live.
Wow, wouldn't that be something over the weekend to be doing that?
It is good to have someone who can read and write Farsi, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does help us. We're very thankful for that. We're very thankful for that.
By the way, Ani, what do you say in Farsi when you raise a glass?
Salamati.
Salamati. Okay, I look forward to saying that, and L'chaim at the same time.
L'chaim. We'll get there very soon.
I am just going to send one more text here, guys, because I'm getting one from Colonel Manus. I want to respond to that. The information comes in constantly, even though he's off the air, just as it does from Aaron and Annie. We are all texting each other. A lot of times Aaron is giving me updates in the middle of the night and vice versa. And we give them to him in the middle of his night, which is our day. Aaron's a real trooper. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, you, Brandon.
We'll be
Stay safe, Aaron.
We'll be in touch tonight. Absolutely, both of you. Folks, again, if you appreciate what we're doing, Aaron is brought to us by our foundation. We send him love offerings regularly. Sent him one last night. We got off the air. So if you appreciate all he's doing for us as well, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com, a network here with our own reporter on the ground in Israel. We have our correspondent, Jim Papp, in the nation's capital. So we're working hard here, folks, to build your worldview tube. And any day now, we should be launching 2 new channels. We'll have this 24/7 stream, Worldview Tube. But we have our health channel that's already streaming. There's a collection of all of these great interviews we do with medical doctors that we love and trust, nutritionists, and functional medicine doctors. And so we have a health channel. The 3rd channel is coming, and then any day now, is our history channel. We'll be running a lot of history programming that we have in our archive, as well as new stuff. I just finished yesterday writing a script on the home of Robert E. Lee that we toured and filmed a few weeks ago in D.C. Whole new documentary coming out on Robert E. Lee's home in Arlington National Cemetery, just like we did on the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. Got that documentary out. More to come. So we're going to have a brand new history channel, 24 hours a day. That should launch probably before Monday. And then also launching is a Bible prophecy channel. We'll be bringing in a lot of Bible prophecy programming from the late Dr. Jimmy D. Young, from people like Ed Heinzen, who's passed away. We'll have, what's his name? David Hawking. We'll have Andy Woods, Rob Lindstead, my series on Revelation, 40 lessons now. We have so many people, too many to even name, who've taught for us on the book of Revelation and on Bible prophecy. Kay Arthur, there's so many that we'll have, and that'll be running on our 24/7 Bible prophecy channel we're launching. So Worldview Tube is growing, and we're able to bring these streams all to you free of charge, folks. Not behind a paywall, but free of charge, all of them. as our network with our different channels grows, thanks in part to you through worldviewfoundation.com. The other way, of course, is worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Don't forget about all the great products there by all of our different sponsors, products we use, we endorse, we believe in, that we take personally. We vet all of these products and we use them. We don't push and promote anything we don't agree with. We turn down so many companies that want us to promote them, but we don't. If we don't believe in their products and we don't use them and won't use them, then we don't promote them, folks. So these are products we've endorsed and we use, whether it's Bella Grace, Gatatana, Numi, our water filter, etc. You'll find it all there. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right, we will be back on the air as news warrants tomorrow. Hopefully and prayerfully, nothing happens. I'd like to spend some time with the family, working in the yard, and a few other things. So let's pray that it's quiet in America tomorrow with these rallies taking place across the country. But tomorrow night, we will bring you at 5:30 Central, the Army Parade. We'll bring it to you right here on Worldview Tube, starting at 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you to Caleb in the control room tonight. And until next time, I'm Brandon House. May God save America. Take care. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouse, BG.com.
Looking for a trusted source to understand today's world through a Christian worldview? Worldview Tube is built on the 35 years of Worldview books, columns, research, and high-profile interviews of Brandon House. Want to know more about Worldview Tube, its founder, history, team, and mission? Visit worldviewtube.com/about. That's worldviewtube.com/about. Worldview Tube is your source for understanding the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 20.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work,